Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Ditko's World, Static. Thanks for joining me today, but before I get started, let me go ahead and ask you to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content and you want other people to know about it and celebrate the positive things of the comic book medium. Do those things and the algorithm will help out other people find the channel. And comments are always encouraged, whether you're just wanting to drop a note saying you agree or disagree. It's always good to have a conversation with other comic fans. All right, without further ado, let's jump into this pretty cool Steve Ditko black and white comic from Renegade Press. Now, I was not familiar with this. I was fortunate to find it while just digging through a unorganized section of a comic shop. And it's one of those things that just kind of jumped out immediately when you see Ditko's World right across the top. It's got a pretty cool, paneled cover, which you don't see a lot of these days. I like the design of how, he has this trade dress up here of Ditko's World, and then you have static being the main feature of the book. And I like how this staticiness kind of bends around. And then not only that, but you've got like your other story featured here, this character featured here, and then even the box where the UPC code would go, which I don't know that this was sold on newsstands at all. You've got this little yes, no, maybe, these heads right here, which is also something that's in the book. This was a 3-issue miniseries. I only have this one. I would love to track down the other two. It is jam-packed with just Ditko goodness. The static character, from my understanding, is that he first appeared in a Eclipse Comics anthology book. And then when Eclipse folded, I suppose, Ditko took it over to Charlton for another handful of issues. And this was kind of the wrap-up of it, is this 3-issue miniseries. So even though it's Ditko's World number 1, you're going to jump right into this static story. And I felt a little lost in it, but it's still pretty superhero-y, but it gets the point across. So first, what I want to say is everybody knows about Steve Ditko's ideology of objectivism, and this is definitely one of those stories that it shines through, not just in static, but also in this this isn't part of the static story. This is just something that shows up periodically through this book. It's called Heads, and it's more or less just little doodles of faces. And then it's almost like a journal for Ditko to just kind of like his random thoughts on things. But static itself is very black and white objectivism as well. There's right and there's wrong, and there's really no in the middle. But Ditko did not play in gray areas. And there's lots of good videos out there that really dive deep into that. I probably couldn't do it better than the 15 or 20 that I've already watched in the past. But I will just point it out throughout this storyline. So this character, Static, he wears this suit. It's kind of unclear what it is. It's not like electric powers or static powers necessarily, but it does have this cool little, dot energy coming off of him when he's powered up. And this scientist here was the creator, and he has a daughter, and then it's not a lab assistant, but it's a guy that works with him that wears the suit. And there must have been some kind of disagreement on how the suit should be used in the previous issue, and he lied. The guy wearing it lied to the daughter, which there's obviously some relationship tension there between them. And she's refusing to give him the suit back after the dad but at this point, this dad is getting captured by some bad guys. Let's take a look at Heads real quick. I'm just going to read across it, and you can get the general impression of Ditko's mindset doing this. Heads. I must be guaranteed success. It's wrong, cruel to reject what I offer. Sob. Ha 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 ha. I enjoy seeing someone fail. No one deserves to rise above anyone else. We could subsidize failures. Make the successful give up part of their success. Penalize the able, the best. No one knows what is best or good. Set up a government agency to regulate equality of success for all. If freedom means anything, it's a right to say no to a person or product. So just in that little cartoon across the bottom, you kind of get an idea of what he's about right there. I mean, and to be clear, though, I mean, he's not saying we should subsidize fares or set up government agencies. These heads are implying that's ridiculous. So I was saying this is jam-packed with content. I mean, look at these panel pages. You know, Ditko known for the 9-panel grid, and here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on this one. Looks like 9 on this one too. But he mixes up the size pretty good here. So your layout, it changes just enough. Here's where the guy that wears the suit is arguing with the daughter about getting the suit back. And the dialogue is very stiff. This is not really a fluid read. I don't think Ditko is the best writer, and you can kind of see where Stan Lee was needed to make Spider-Man a success. Because I think if Spider-Man had been written with this stiff of dialogue, I don't think it would have been successful as it ended up being, despite how cool the costume looks. I will critique modern comics a lot of times for spinning a page of dialogue to get nowhere. And that's kind of what happens right here. This whole part is basically him saying, you need to let me get the suit back. No, you lied to me before about the suit. I'm not giving it back. But it's what I need. The suit is blah, blah, blah. Your dad wanted this. No, I can't do it. Well, if you won't give it to me, I'm not going to try to take it from you because that would be wrong. And it goes back and forth with that through this whole conversation until they show up at the lab. The dad is missing. Obviously, like, experiments were left in the middle of his work, which is very suspicious. Again, he's like, you need to give me the suit so I can find him. There's a phone call. I love that panel there. And these two transitions, the shocked face there and then kind of spinning around, a camera swinging to the, or maybe it's like she turned or something, like she went like this way and he stepped forward. Anyhow, her dad, the professor, is being threatened by this guy who's the general. And he has this like half scarred face. And at some point they ask him, like, you're the general of what? And he's like, that's on a need to know basis, just the general. So a lot in these 2 pages probably could have been, story-wise, could have been condensed down to 2. But every panel is just really interesting to look at. I mean, this whole, like, the phone rings, he picks it up, he hands it the turn, all of that is interesting. So this general's wanting him to buy some kind of super weapon, and he says he needs it. Maybe, did I miss that page, actually? He says he needs it to, he needs a part from his lab, and he wants his daughter to get it to him. But really, it was just code for him to get the suit to save him. He didn't really need the part. And here's the dialogue. Somewhere in here is where it says, like, what are you the general of? Just the general. So eventually, you know, he's like, I need the suit. No, the daughter's kind of losing it. But she eventually relents. I mean, even though here she's like, no. And he just keeps arguing. It's a slim chance. I can't guarantee to save him, Farah, but I'm willing to risk my life trying. Please, give me the suit. So we spent 3 pages of him, like, begging to get this suit back. I mean, that panel's great. So finally he gets the suit. He's going to rescue the professor who has these parts he needs. Again, this is pretty standard superhero fare, but a lot of needless dialogue through this part. I don't want to say Ditko's trying to push an agenda through this. It's just his personal beliefs come through in his work, which also is kind of what he wanted. He didn't do a lot of interviews. Well, he didn't really do any that I know of. He didn't do interviews or interact with media to promote his work. He always felt like the work should stand on its own. And that's what you get across through this. He was interactive with fans, though. If you wrote him a letter, he would write you back. Anyway, here's our static character. I mean, his powers look cool. I just don't really understand what they are other than some kind of energy. Something interesting about Ditko, too, is because he started already at Timely or Marvel, he was always working in color. So when he left Marvel and he did some stories for Creepy that were in black and white, which I have like a nice hardcover collecting all of his work in that. And there's an introduction that explains that it actually took him a little while to get used to drawing just for black and white. But this comes out great. I mean, everything is super clear, super crisp. Nothing gets lost, which can happen in black and white books a lot of times. But it doesn't seem that different from his Spider-Man work in the 60s. I guess I should have said this came out in 1986. But a lot of when he writes copyright, it says 85. So some earlier stories, he just got a chance to print them about a year later. Good action through here. So here's where he uses his power around that gun. Like it freezes him or something. And then he turns the other weapon that he was trying to build on him. And look at that panel. I mean, that's pretty awesome. So I guess his static power is almost an ability to manipulate magnetism in a sort of way, I guess. But he uses it here on this guy's head, too. I don't know. And then the story wraps up with him saving the professor. And then they question some stuff about the suit. He destroys the weapon that he built. And then there's some, moral dilemma over the suit. That may be something that was coming into play in the previous stories from different publishers that I don't know about. But I would like to pick them up. While I don't think this is like an awesome story, an awesome character, I just love looking at these Ditko panels. So here's our heads again. Well, heads is down here. This is something else. Just some like random cartooning doodles and stuff by Ditko. And they're just fun to look at. So this is I'm Comic Kid, and he could turn into anything. And he turns into all these crazy looking characters, from pirates, cowboys on like a stick figure horse, a detective. This astronaut gives me Buzz Lightyear vibes. And then we got our heads again. Positive pleasure and negative pain responses. And you've just got these like really cool expressions, emotions. Indifferent, neutral. That's that face. Is indifferent or neutral. To, and then all these different expressions. Why? And this goes on about like, you don't know why you feel the way you feel. No one knows. No one can know why he feels the way he does. No one can know why he feels the way he does. You can define or explain emotions. You can't define or explain emotions. You can only feel them. Know why you feel the way you do? It's not true. It is. Ditko has a new book, a team-up, Avenging World, and Mr. A Battle Fandom. And you just got these, haha, ho-hum, oh no, I can't wait. Curse word. Look at that, sticking the tongue out. Sob, big deal. Why? I wish. Believe it when I see it. What's your response? So this stuff is just kind of awesome to have, I think. This next story, The Exploding Room, this feels like something straight out of an old, like, amazing adult fantasy or something like that. This man is some kind of assassin, and he blows things up, and he likes to watch his handiwork from a distance. This panel's awesome. The explosion is just so different, the way he does this explosion coming out. And as he's leaving, all assured of himself, kind of mocking the people running to go see what happened in the accident, a black cat crosses his path. And this guy who's so proud of himself for setting bombs off, he's like, "Get out of here, cat. You're going to break my lucky streak." And then the police and the fire department. This scene, actually, by the end of this, is kind of irrelevant. I guess it gives some background on who he is. And it's only these two panels. But his name is Bruno the Exploder. So he has a reputation. And the cop's like, how are we going to stop him? And the fireman says, that's not my job. I just put out the fires. The fireman's like, seriously, man, that's on you. I'm just gonna clean. I'm here to clean up the mess, but hopefully you get him. So Bruno goes to get paid for his job by a man named Keg. And Keg is all about this vase, and he's denying him his bonus. He promised him a bonus, but now says he can't have the bonus, but be happy with what you got. This guy's all sure of himself, thinking he's going to keep Bruno on the hook here. And the other guy comes in, and this guy, and he's like, you shouldn't do that. Like, we need him around, and he might come back at you. And he totally dismisses it, like, well, he'll figure it out, or, oh, he'll calm down later. So we see somebody sneaking back in, and it's Bruno, and he's putting something in that vase. And then he's at a bar hanging out. I'll give him my bonus. Then he's at a bar hanging out, and he's kind of proud of himself. Feels like he's going to get back on his lucky streak. He's just kind of plotting his way to get out of the city. Change of scenery is going to be good for him. And you see this lady walking up behind him, and she's like, hey, check out this heirloom I got. This expensive piece I just inherited. And he gets up and bumps her. He's like paying her no attention, and he bumps her. She drops the mirror and it breaks, and he's like, oh no, a mirror. First the black cat, now a broken mirror. And he's just all in his thoughts about his bad luck and these superstitions, which are kind of funny. That this guy who sets off bombs, he's extra superstitious. Anyway, he's totally ignoring the girl who's like, hey, you owe me for that heirloom. And he just runs off. And then it's funny because the bartender's like, you worked your stunt real good, Irma, but it didn't pay off. Something really spooked him. Yeah, so I'm out of Finn. Hand me a broom, will you, Chuck? So basically this mirror was worthless. She was just trying to con him into giving her some money for this priceless heirloom she inherited. So it's all a con. Back over at Keg's place, they're talking about how they're going to need Bruno again to do something, and he calls him. He's like, oh, good, Bruno, we just wanted to talk to you. And Bruno's like, oh, no, you took something precious from me. Now I'm going to take something precious from you. He's like, what are you talking about? Oh, no. And this precious vase that he loves so much explodes. Look at that panel. That's awesome, too. I mean, just the use of blacks. So now he's like happy. He's like, I've killed the guy where my luck turned, and this should set things right. But as he starts to leave, Keg has been thrown from the explosion and is dying and curses him to be blown up for eternity. Curse, a dying man's curse. They're supposed to come true. And that's a great panel, too, of the face. The facial expressions, you see it in his little heads cartoons, and here he applies it to more realistic faces. So it's kind of unclear exactly what he's in here, if this is like just dreaming or what, but he's in this box, and the box, I guess, explodes. But not like a fiery explosion, just like flies apart. And then comes back together, and then does it again, and again, and again. And he says, no, no more, no, not again. Oh, God. A never-ending ending. So the curses did come true. This story was not by Ditko, and so I just kind of glanced over it. I'm not going to cover it. It's very rough. I don't even know why it's in here. It's just like filling pages. By John Jacobs and John Jeff Potter. It's about a superhero, like, bar or something. I don't know. So this character, the Shag, I was trying to look up and see if he had appeared in one of those other titles, like the Eclipse book or the Charlton book. And I couldn't find that he showed up anywhere else before this. There is a thing called Ditko Package that came out in the later 80s that I guess had these stories reprinted from this Renegade Press, as well as some new stories to go along with it. However, this is just a continuation of what Ditko was doing with the Creeper at DC Comics. And if you've ever read the Creeper, you would see the similarities immediately. I mean, he looks kind of like the Creeper, first of all. But our main character is working at a TV station. His name is kind of similar. It's all the pieces of the Creeper are here. So I guess this was just, he had more Creeper stories to tell. Didn't want to do them at DC. Maybe wanted to push the envelope a little bit further. Who knows? But this is a continuation of the Creeper. I love this opening header right here that looks like a filing, because it says, from the Ditko hero file. And it looks like a filing thing. And just the thin lines, the pen used to do this, it's like the same pen was used for the lettering and the drawings. Shag is a funny name for a character. Anyway, he works at a TV station. This is just like an opening thing that gives you the character names. And then it goes, and the uglies. So this story is called, it's Shag and the uglies is kind of the title of this storyline. And I'm not even exactly 100% sure what's happening here. There's this woman working for the TV station. Somebody wants to meet this woman that was a TV star. And he takes the money from this guy, this little nerdy dude. He takes it from him like he's going to meet him, but then he grabs him by the neck and shoves the money in his mouth and kicks him out. I guess he's had a security maybe. And he's all upset. And then that's a great face on her too. And then all of a sudden there's the uglies. This guy with this ugly mask comes and tries to attack. And Shag comes out of nowhere and defends her. Nice little action here. Kind of Spider-Man-y action. But he gets kicked. Shag gets kind of kicked away by the ugly guy, who then just escapes, makes his way out. And look at this. Look at these pages. Jam-packed. Jam-packed. The way these are laid out, too, with very rigid grid going across this way, I almost feel like this could have been like a daily strip or something. And this would have been your Sunday to kick it off. Well, that's pretty straightforward, too. Very rigid. But this page alone has, I think, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 panels on this page alone. And this one has 15. So you got 31 panels on these 2 pages. And a lot of story happens in it, too. You see him, I guess this is him changing back. Just this little detail of him changing back from the Shag to his daily identity. There's some argument here about how the ugly guy got through. This TV star woman, she's a big diva. Shag doesn't take any flack from her. Ochre is his name, his day-to-day name. He doesn't really take any flack from her. She tries to hit him here, and he blocks it. She tries to hit him again, and he blocks it again. And then he kind of bops her on the head, I guess. Which, of course, she's outraged by and says she's going to get him fired. And he doesn't care one bit. And that's exactly how the alter ego in the Creeper was. He was never worried about getting fired. He had a very black and white view of the world. And he was going to do what he saw as the right thing. And if it got him fired and he lost the job, so be it. Something else would come up. Anyway, I mean, just the detail of every one of these little tiny panels is just incredible, really, when you look at it close. So this guy, the nerdy guy, he's going to try to be alone with the TV star. He wants to meet her. They're kind of setting him up as a patsy, because she comes to this place where there's all this like ugly sculpture. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to show your human side. I like that. Not many notice that side of me. But then you think he's going to be the villain. He's going to be the ugly guy. But you see him getting abducted in the back. And then the ugly comes out. And it rips off a mask. And this is where I'm like, did something happen before that we didn't see? I don't know. But it turns out to be somebody else, like in a Scooby-Doo thing. Is it him? It's hard. I couldn't really get that. Because she says, Wes Gobo. And Shag comes in, That's a cool panel too. I like the negative space of him. That's him changing. He has some kind of device where the Creeper actually used to have to put a costume on. He has something that just changes him into it. And then this time he's able to take the ugly out. There's some great cartooning, the looking around face. And of course he takes him out. And it turns out he was like some sculptor or something, the guy. And I guess she broke some of his ugly statues. I don't know. So he harbored revenge against her. And then we get a repeat of the same thing, but up close again, where she's like, I want to thank you properly. And he's like, no, you can't say no to me. And so he blocks her slaps again and knocks her back. And it says, end. For now, I may be back. Anyway, that's Steve Ditko's world, Static, #1. Like I said, this is a 3-issue miniseries. I'd love to get the other 2 issues that go along with it. It makes me want to chase down even the Eclipse and Charlton work that he's done. I don't really have a lot of that. But I love seeing Steve Ditko's black and white work. I think it's so crisp, and the storytelling of the artwork is so clear. I don't think he's the best dialogue writer. It's too stiff, or it's too static, you might say. Anyhow, that's all I got for this one. Until next time, read your comics.